Hey, y'all, we need to get started so we can eat lunch.
Test.
Moses. I don't know, I can't do myself.
Steve Commandments, man. Who doesn't like that movie?
Y'all ready?
Next to the stage.
So we started the contractor panel, I guess, about 2.5 years ago, asking some contractors that have been working with us for the last several years. And looking around here, I've got, golly, 6, 8, 10, 12 years of everybody, at least over 5 years experience working with us. Today, Melissa is going to walk them through a series of questions. Like I said, we've set up on the PowerPoint the series of questions that she's going to start with. She's going to introduce the folks in the panel, tell you a little bit about them, but we like this to be interactive, so anything that you can think of, and it doesn't have to be within the series of topics that she's going to talk about as well. So I'll turn it over to Melissa Irby, who is our field rep for Alabama and the Florida panel.
Good morning, guys. How are y'all?
Good.
First, I'd like to start out by introducing some of our contractors who are going to be on the panel. All of them have more than 5 years experience working with American Weather Star, marketing and selling all of AWS products and systems. Each company is an AWS Platinum contractor and from various regions of the country. Start out with Merv Fisher here. Capital Coating, Merv began his company, Capital Coating, in the early 90s. He teamed up with AWS in late 2006, and as the owner, Merv manages the team leaders of each department and operations. Next up, we have Lisa Irby, Thomas Roofing. Lisa is the service department manager for Thomas Roofing. She started with them in 1991. And she has earned the respect of her colleagues with her knowledge and experience in a male-driven industry. She was recently promoted to vice president of the company this year. Woo. Next up, we have Bobby Norrell, Bob Construction. After working in the roofing industry since 1994, Bobby and his brother LG and their father Larry decided to bring Galt Construction to life in 2009. Teamed up with AWS in 2012, and as VP of the company, Bobby is involved with job site management, insurance negotiations, bidding and estimating, and contractor consultations. Next up, we have Stephen Forte, Innovative Construction. Stephen has been in the roofing industry for the last 10 years. He has worked on projects all over the country, from South Carolina to Tacoma, Washington, as well as Puerto Rico and in the islands. He has worked with coatings for several years and began working with AWS products in 2014, and has since become an avid supporter and asset in helping Fast Academy become successful. And last up, we have Jason Thomas with J&J Roofing. Jason started J&J Roofing in 2011. He started working with American Weather Star in 2013 and has only missed one Fast Academy since then. So this would be his 10th one. Jason is not only the owner, but also hands-on during many projects. So thank you guys for, Lisa, for being a part of our panel today. First question, go with Lisa on this one. This is her favorite. Sales techniques and cold calls. Lisa, can you tell us your process for making cold calls and other sales techniques you use?
Okay, everybody knows I don't call it cold calls, I call it potential new customers, first of all. I believe that if you visit a a customer enough times, you eventually are gonna get them.
It's on. It's on. Mic check.
Talk a little louder.
Tell me what you want to say, and I'll say it for you.
Season number 5.
So basically, we believe that, the more knowledge you have about your company and truly believe in what you have to sell, you can actually get new customers. We, pick up a lot of new customers quite often. We, have a good sales force, not only myself, but I have 2 other sales guys, in my department alone. And we personally believe that you just constantly stop by, give them information about your company, and at some point in time, they're gonna clean off their desk and they're gonna remember they have a need. It might be a year or 2 later, but they're eventually gonna call you. And if nothing else, if you can get bids on the roof, you have the potential to close a deal with them. Close one deal, and then you can hopefully sell more and more and more and get to where you're actually coating their roofs, replacing them, or whatever their needs may be.
Anybody else have a?
I hate those calls. I'm scared to death. So we do a lot of cold calling and a lot, and even more recently with new construction, but that's different. With what, like Lisa said, and sort of reiterating, is the fact that the consistency, persistence. Whether they know or they don't know they have a problem or not, one of the things that I've had told to me many times over the years is I follow up religiously, especially if I have, proposals out there, budget proposals. Those things take longer, obviously, different stages of where they're at, and there's, moving forward with a new roof or any sort of remodel. But like getting new clients, period, in the story from the start, getting through gatekeepers, building relationships with those gatekeepers if you need to, going back consistently, making the phone calls so you get in touch with people. And I've had so many times they say, well, you're extremely persistent, but you're not annoying about it. That's what I like about you. I don't call them 5 times a day. I've heard people do that. Obviously, they're gonna literally block their number. But calling people once a week, or twice a week, first of the week and the end of the week, people get busy. But there's been so many times where the consistency and persistence, but done correctly, will garner you guys, your sales guys, some sort of thing. It's just part of sales training. I think the follow-up, if you ever look at statistics, and I know we've been to a lot of conferences where we try to put up a lot of statistics about follow-up, and how many salespeople don't follow up at all, let alone when they do, it's extremely poor. That is the biggest thing, is follow up and follow through, not just from a production standpoint, but from a sales standpoint. So persistence and follow up.
I would add just a little bit to that. One of the things that we focus on is account management. We believe that once we have existing clients, the database is fairly large. Our number one goal is basically what we call account management, establishing and keeping that relationship. It's a lot less expensive than just cold calling. And if you can get repeat business out of your existing clients, it's very profitable long term. Also, follow-up, I agree with Steve, follow-up is very important, and there's a technique we've been using for the last 3 years, and we call it the numbering technique. I myself, when I get a follow-up email, it's like, man, I just don't have time to respond. One of the techniques we're using now is what we call the numbering, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So it's like, okay, can you just tell me where you are? Just give me a number. If it's a 1, yes, I'm ready to buy. If it's a 2, call me back in 6 months. If it's a 3, don't darken my door. It's kind of like that. So the response has been, the ratio has been tremendous using something that's very simple when you want to follow up.
I'll say, I remember one of my first fast academies that I came to, they had a sales presentation. And one of the things that stood in my mind about it is this guy said that it takes on average of 12 phone calls to get in touch with who you need to get in touch with and get them to make a decision. And I know that that's one of the things that I tell people is, 12 phone calls. After 1 or 2, most people give up on it at best. You have to be persistent, but not annoying. So
I've
there.
done a lot of business, just like I said, dropping off information about the company, a brochure, flyer, business card, and literally I've had several calls say, I cleaned off my desk, and I found your information, Oh, and our pickups, yeah, we, actually took our phone number off our pickup. So now, we did that 5 or 6 years ago. So if you wanna find my company, you have to look us up on the internet. You're gonna see the caliber of our company, you're gonna see the style of roofing that we do, and you're gonna know whether we're gonna be able to, the company you wanna have.
Awesome. That'll wrap up sales and cold calls there. Go to the next question. We'll go with Merv here. Job site conditions. Merv, what are you looking for when you pull up to a potential job for the first time to do an estimate?
What I've been looking for when I pull up to the job for the first time. Well, first of all, I want to say this, before you pull up or the time that you're pulling up, and we've had a challenge over the years, guys get so excited and say, you know, I got a huge project that I'm going to pull up and look at. I tell our guys 3 things: be prompt, professional, proficient. Really, that sets the tone moving forward. There's going to be a lot of talk here, and there's, you know, things, advice, experience, but there's several things that I want to point out that you need to remember. I always use certain metaphors or numbering, and one thing that we do when we're pulling up to the job site for the first time, we teach our guys, you consider your hand. There's 5 steps that we go through. Number 1, which is the thumb, you're going to survey the prospect. Okay, so it's the prospect, the interior of the building, the roof, the exterior of the building, and the area. All right, so if you remember those things, and the reason I'm pointing this out, this can play a big role in each step and how thorough you are with those steps to being successful later on. So first of all, we're surveying the prospect. What I consider that is you meet the person, you know, who's familiar with the building, who's faced with the challenges, ask the questions, try to discover their challenges. One of the key things also is when you're surveying the process or the person is ask for the budget. Have they had a budget? Has anyone else looked at this job? And there's times that when I'm done, I kind of act stupid and I'm like, what are the other guys recommending? And that question alone has given us so much information. You know, who are the players that we're competing against? The interior of the building, surveying the next, and I say pointing. I use my pointer finger because that points out on the inside. You're pointing to certain things. It's like you're going around before we ever get on the roof, because when you look at the interior, we just had a project. He missed going inside the building. It was a tar gravel roof over a Tectum deck. Gets up on the roof, takes a step out, goes right through the decking. Didn't realize it was Tectum, it was so bad. So our first rule is you go on the inside, check the decking, interior roof drains, water stains, look on the metal decking, go on about we have a sheet that everything's checked off as they're going through the survey. Next, we get up on the roof and you survey the project. You're really looking on the roof. We had one of our sales guys basically missed a key thing, and that was doing a core sample. I'm like, you never get off of that roof without doing a core. So one of the things, core sample, know your roof system, do a visual walkthrough, walk the roof, document it, look at the seams, drains, penetrations, and then after getting off of the roof, well, when you're walking the roof, is the roof a candidate to get the fluid applied membrane? You guys have heard, is it a tear off or is it a restore? And the other one we had just missed a project by 10%. It has cost our company over $100,000. Instead of taking and walking around the roof and counting the penetrations and the seams, he did a visual inspection and used Eagle View. It is now, to do the job, it's going to cost us close to $100,000 because of the miss. So make sure that you measure and take the correct quantities. When we're done there, get off of the roof and then survey the exterior. You're looking for, flashings. Is there wall cracks, is there proper drainage around the building, you know, the locations of the drains. Then the last one, which is we consider the smallest but very important, and that is survey the area and what are the project requirements. We had a project several years ago, gets up on the roof, gets down, after it's all done, thinks he's complete, writes up the quote, did the estimate, and he had estimated, he put in the production rate based on spraying the project. He didn't take the time to look around the surrounding areas, and here there was a brand new car lot just on the other side. We had to hand roll this entire thing, and it was corrugated metal. So looking, you know, the other one was when you're around the building, surveying the area, you know, where are you getting electricity, water? Guys, you're soon gonna learn if you miss, if there's not a water outlet, you're gonna learn the next time you're gonna look for that water. Not only are you looking for the water, do you have the correct water supply? If you're using X amount of pressure washers, do you have enough of water supply to provide those pressure washers? Access to the roof. We were in Allentown, and basically he had said we're gonna lift everything up on the roof. Thought he was gonna use a pettibone. Guess what? Didn't reach. Everything went through the hallway, went into the foyer, up the elevator, through the hallway, up a little 24 by 24 hatch in buckets. Our guys were furious. And then we couldn't bring a crane in because we didn't have the correct surrounding to lift the material. And then, last but not least, is what's our risk and how will you mitigate that risk? We talked about overspray risk. Those are key things is, you know, what is the safety of the public and the overspray, and of course the buildings, what are the buildings occupied with, so.
Well thought out.
That's the way we do it. We have a form. We've got a 5-page
I was
form.
looking at it, I was like,
We're impressed.
notes. I ain't got nothing to say. Go to the next
No comment? No comment.
And I will say this, if anyone wants our forms, I'd be willing to share with you because they are very important. Over the years, it has cost our company so much money by missing certain steps. So.
Can you email that out, please?
Awesome. All right, next one, let's go with,
Make sure nobody has any questions.
does anybody have any questions? They'll get you the form if you do.
Right.
All right, next up, we're gonna go over estimating. Stephen, I'll get you to answer this for me here. Walk us through your process of organizing the information collected to put an estimate together for a potential job.
All right, so it all obviously starts with, naturally, like what he said, getting your job site conditions and really seeing what you're gonna be dealing with. And then naturally, it's just, when putting it all together, finding out, are you gonna use inside, if you have, inside crews, as we like to call them, in-house crews, you're gonna be using subcontractors, which subcontractors are you using, what are their rates, obviously knowing what those are gonna be, and applying that naturally in there. So like for instance, when we're doing certain jobs, there's certain contractors, if we're gonna sub out a particular project, we know it's lump sum per square, I can just multiply it out, it's a pretty simple gig. And there's some times where we have, subs where they do it based on the day, so you're having to pretty much do how many man days, how many is gonna take, put all that together. And then if you're using in-house crews, you're paying them by the hour, you're paying them by the day. If you're paying them by the day and they're an in-house crew, that's up to you. We stopped doing that. But we pay everybody by the hour if they're employees that are with the company. So, and in putting all that together, doing estimating, not necessarily proposal. I'm getting mixed up. I'm trying to go into the whole proposal side of things, but then in terms of estimating, like you said, which product is going to be the right product for that particular project, and a lot of this is really answered by Merv. But is it for instance, I have a client that constantly calls me about giving them quotes on silicone over metal. And it's another contractor actually, he's a sales guy, and I do a lot of their sub. And I'm like, why are you proposing this? What is your means, what is your goal here? What are you trying to accomplish? Want to give a warranty and get them a coating on their roof? Well, is there a reason? Like, it's a storage unit. You want to put silicone on corrugated or R-panel on a storage unit? No, not necessarily. What do you think? And I'm like, you're the salesman, you're the one talking to them. This is not a good idea. Your client, you're spending more money and you're creating more of a hassle. In my opinion, go with an acrylic. That's probably your best bet on something that's an R-panel roof on a storage unit that's not climate controlled or anything like that. You know, you get on a flat roof, and I had another guy call me, he's like, yeah, we're looking to do an acrylic on it. I'm like, how old is the roof? Does it have a good pitch on it, or is it just dead flat pretty much? No, it's just a flat modified roof, and it's about 22 years old. Probably not a good idea to put acrylic on that. So, you know, using a Urasil system, something that's gonna not, fall apart in ponding water, which is going to be a silicone system, right? So, product is gonna be an extremely important aspect. You know, he was just telling me about a project he did for somebody where they told the client, we're gonna eliminate all the ponding water, but they had him coat it. Well, he coated it with a system that is okay with the ponding water, it's not gonna hurt it, but at the same time, they proposed to the client that we're gonna get rid of the ponding. So communication with you when you're doing your estimate on what you're actually going to propose and put out there to your client, and what products you're gonna use to make it worthwhile. And you know, you can give somebody a Metasil system, for instance, and in certain cases it makes sense to do that, like we talked about. Like if you have a metal roof and it's, you know, a strip mall and it's a metal roof and they've got a Chinese place there, or a Pizza Hut. Animal fats, those types of things are not going to be good for an acrylic coating, maybe in that area, or the entire roof might need a silicone coating to be able to withstand those types of conditions. But you know, making sure that you have your labor rates together and making sure you have the right product. And if you have questions with that, that's why you have your reps to go and ask for specs, and you can go online and find that with resources and get that all put together. I hope that helps. I feel like I didn't really answer that well.
Yeah, like we individually estimate every single job we do. Like I recently did a proposal for a condominium, and the buildings mirrored each other. They were the exact same measurement. Walked the first roof, it had this set of efficiencies. Walked the second roof, it had a totally different set of efficiencies. If I'd have just walked the one roof and put the price together, I'd have lost money on the second roof. So I estimated both of those differently and then added them together, because then the customer came back and said, well, can we do them one at a time? I gave the individual numbers. They were like, why is one higher than the other? You have more deficiencies on one roof. It was not very well maintained. And like I said, they're the exact same measurement. So we individually estimate. We also try to give our customers much information, like go in, where we actually make the initial call with them and give them the samples that AWS provides to us. We know we're going in for a coating system, we provide that. A lot of times we get asked, can you give us a price for a replacement as well? We do that. We provide that quite a bit, or recover, like a TPO recover. So we provide both of those numbers. 9 times out of 10, I get the job, and the roofing side of the company does not, just because my numbers are more attractive. But we also, I think the more you can educate your customer as well in your proposal, and spending the time providing photos and different things like that, all of that helps with the sale of the proposal. So.
Thanks, Lisa. Anybody else?
Just one quick thing. How many, by show of hands, have 1 year or less in quoting roof restoration or coatings? Okay, just a quick piece of advice, and even those that aren't doing this at this point, quick piece of advice, from this day on, monitor your production, because it will help you be more accurate a year from now. And if you're getting into more difficult projects on how it's like, you hear these guys, you know, it's like, well, how much do you charge per square foot? It really doesn't work that way. I mean, you know, we used to just like, okay, which way is the wind blowing, or we do that thumb estimate, yeah, that might work. That doesn't really work today anymore. Getting very accurate with your production and then accurate with your spread rates will give you the confidence. And let's say you're 10% higher than your competitors, it will give you the confidence knowing that you have the right price. Or if you're 20% lower, you're still confident that you have the right price. So start tracking now so that you continue to upgrade, look back at your benchmarks, and then as you continue to grow, you know where you need to be.
Touch on that, I did a job for a gentleman not long ago. He's been doing coatings probably about a year, and he told me his price point, which is pretty good, but he told me that he's not making money doing this. And I think a lot of that was, his production. His guys had no clue what they were doing. They didn't know the proper way of doing it or how to do it. So, keeping track of that and knowing and learning and coming here and teaching people how to do this. It's a very profitable business. Why he's not making money, I don't know, but I mean, that's just my guess is, it's inexperience. He actually came out and watched my crew do the job so he could take it back and teach his crew how to do it. I don't know if he's making money now or not, but I'm assuming it would have to be. So that's just learning, production, knowing what they're doing.
Adding to that, don't train 10 crews at one time. Train one crew, get on really specialty at it, move on to another crew so you have a backup to that. Once you get the secondary crew trained, depending on the size of your company, train your third or fourth or however many you have. Don't just go out there and say, all right, I've got 10 new crews, go figure it out. That's not gonna be successful.
Question, Bill?
Not really a question, it's just a suggestion. You need to know the mentality of who you have working for you. Like at Baker, I have field employees that are hourly employees in service department. We do not do coatings and service, I run to my re-roof department. I do not use company employees for re-roofs. My coatings, I've actually done a coating job using the service guys basically as subs for my department. If those guys, you have to figure out how they feel about your company. If they're there to catch a check and get their hours, they will run your job into the ground because they're there to get hours. They don't necessarily care how much work you're getting done. So if you just send them out to go do work and you're not actually managing your project, paying attention to them, I like using subs for the opposite reason. It behooves the sub to get the job done faster. They can still do it correctly, but those guys, more work they do, more money they make. It doesn't matter how many hours they get because you're getting paid X amount of money to do this project for me. So if they do the project in 4 days, they typically yourselves will actually do work faster than what your in-house guys will do. But they'll go out there and do 500 squares in a week and a half. Where your in-house guys, your labor cost actually does this, but you're not actually keeping an eye on and understand their mentality. They will run your job on the ground, and it's happened again and again and again. How did two of you not pressure wash 4,000 square feet of roof yesterday? It takes them 2.5 days to pressure wash, and you bid it for a day and a half. It's all about what they're doing, but our employees can actually take your job if you're not actually keeping an eye on managing your own project.
Well, I disagree with that, because I use both. I get better quality out of my in-house guys than I do myself. And the reason being is because the sub doesn't want you to stay there and manage them. And you usually are not gonna get that production when you stay and actually manage your sub. My guys know at the end of the day, if mama's not happy, God bless her soul. You can ask the moms. And I actually get just as, probably as better production because for them, and I do it this way. You bring the job in at the end of the year, I pay bonuses out on those. Well, guess what? You wanna go see a crew hustle, doesn't matter if they're paid hourly by the day or whatever. They're gonna freaking hustle. Just because they want that benefit at the end of the job if they brought the job in under capacity, under the labor amount. But also the quality I found is much better, and I've gone more towards in-house, less sub. The only time I bring a sub in now is if I've got more on my plate than I can handle in a time frame to get it done in.
Yeah, but you've also changed the mentality because you've incentive, you give them incentive to do better.
That's right, but I also work as like they're sitting here at this table now. I train them, I invest in them. I think the more you invest in your employee, just like my boss has invested in me, I get to go all over. I travel a lot for work to be educated in roofing. I do hands-on, really hands-on type training. So for that, my boss has invested in me and said, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna take my investment and pass it down to my employees, which in turn will give you the best production possible.
Yes, sir.
So, those of you that use subs, do you, on coding, you make sure that it passes inspection before you give them their final payment?
Oh, yeah.
The inspection of the third-party inspection.
I'll touch on that because I mean, I own my own business, I do my own. We're also a sub for several different companies doing coatings. Most of them will withhold 10%, you know, to make sure that it does pass inspection. I mean, I've done a lot of sub jobs. I mean, these guys, I've never had a job fail, but they still withhold it. And I mean, honestly, I mean, from my standpoint, I do that. I mean, I sub out a lot of my shingle work, and I do the same thing to them. Just because, I mean, you may think they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it right, it's gonna be perfect. The one time that you follow that, it's not gonna be.
How long do you hold it?
Until they pass inspection. I mean, that's my biggest thing, is passing their inspections.
I literally had to bring my sub back in on 2 jobs. I walked it before them, poured it in that burner, put his boots on the roof, and I was dissatisfied. So I made them drive back in from Texas and fix the job. After the second one, they have never messed up on the job for me. I used one sub. And they have never messed up another one for me, because he knows he's driving back in from Texas on his own dollar to make it right.
Yes, sir.
One more. Could the panel address waste factor in terms of both just generally what you use for an estimate, and then the difference between rolling versus spraying?
I basically use 10% waste. I mean, every job gets a 10% waste factor. Nothing's ever gonna go perfect. You are gonna screw up. You are gonna have something happen.
And in the winter months, you might already use more,
Yeah.
because you're gonna use more product.
In rolling?
When you're doing something with metal, of course, you have to put your corrugation factor into play too, of course, and then waste on top of that. So typically, I know what I do, which has played well for me over the years, is not on the trapezoidal or ultra deck type thing, but on your basic R panel type roofs, where you use 20%. Because you got a 5% waste factor and you got a 15% corrugation factor at the end of the day when you stretch it out, your stretch factor. So
And
we
we
use
use those roofs too, because a modified or a very alligator built-up roof is gonna eat a lot of product. Modified roofs that aren't very old, a lot of granules, to get that depth, what you're wanting it to be, you gotta be past the granules. So you're gonna be filling and then filling it up.
In a lot of cases, we had, actually, the bank in Gainesville, I don't know if you went on that one with me or not, but we had a lot of alligator. It was a built-up roof, and they've done flood coats here, flood coats there, and you have obviously 2 options. You could spud it, or you could fill it, and there was so widespread, and there was so much, it was more advantageous for us to do something like put an emulsion down, and but to put an emulsion down than it was to spud so many different areas of the roof to create a fill. You don't want to fill with 520 or 522, that's expensive, but an asphalt emulsion can be potentially good too.
How long do you have to wait for the asphalt emulsion to dry before you can?
Very, very long time. Whatever they tell you, don't. I've gotten to a point now to where if it's a built-up roof, it's cheaper for me and more advantageous to just do a spray foam over it. Clean it, spray it, foam it, and then cover it. It's a way better system than trying to run it. And I've done a lot of emulsions, and I've backed off of that aspect. I don't like the system anymore. Just like you said, for some reason it never sticks. It fakes something. It just foam.
Any other questions?
We're spotted.
All right, moving along. Project presentation. Go with Bobby here. Bobby, how do you present the potential project estimate to your customer?
By email. I think we've touched on pretty much that on every one. Information is key to the owners. You don't want to just handle it. It still works for some people to give a little handwritten invoice they bought from Best Buy or Office Depot, and to me it doesn't. I think somebody on here, I usually go against. I put my presentation, my estimates are usually 5 or 6 pages, and there's somebody on here that likes the short ones. Is it you? Yeah. How long are your?
Well, mine is less.
Mine would be client specific, but it's 80 pages minimum. Yeah. So, I mean, you're gonna have your estimates, you're gonna have information on the company. I usually email a link of the videos that we saw, because a lot of people don't know what a restoration system is. And a lot of people have had bad experiences with, like they said, in the past, coatings were the redheaded stepchild of the roofing industry. They failed, people used the wrong products, and they've gotten so much better these days. You're usually having to change the opinion of the person you're talking to. And so information.
Over the years, we've been trying to get our closing ratio up just a couple percentage points. There's some small changes to make a big difference. We've come back and said, okay, it's going to be client specific. So if depending on who we're dealing with, so let's say we have one that's a type D, they just want the price, just give me the price. But our minimum is an 8-page, and that's just what we call the proposal. And we do have what we call the presentation. And if we're dealing with, depending on who we're working with, or trying to close, we'll do a real presentation to the point that's PowerPoint. And the PowerPoint has more to do with when we do the survey, we're taking photos, showing the challenges of the roof, but also then providing the solutions. Our closing rates are climbing with this. Now, it doesn't work for everyone because you've got those that don't have the time, but if you're dealing or if you're working with a board or a large corporation and you've got engineers there or you've got architects involved, it may need more information, but if you have someone that's just a sole owner, has got a small building, says, just email me. Bob said, I just email it. Well, you may just need to email it, and they're gonna be happy with that. And I've done both, and we've, closed, $100,000 deals, just email, and we've also done, $100,000 deals, giving the full presentation.
I primarily email photos. We drop information off about what we're quoting prior to actually submitting the proposal. So for me, I find that the more information I give, I lose them. And I'm dealing with like a lot of property management companies. So property management groups really just kind of want to know their bottom line number, what kind of warranty, and basically see the photos because they don't care to go on the property. And I deal with a ton of condominiums. Now with those, I get worried. I know that I'm, sit down with a board, potentially 200 people at times, right, Scott? And I'm going to need more information. So it's like he said, it's specific to the customer. But for the most part, I close more by not having the longer page document. They really just want a good description of what we're going to do. My qualifications, I let them know I'm not responsible for any leaks in their building due to pressure washing. I bought one MRI machine, never bought another one. So if there's leaks due to pressure washing, trust me, you can create leaks by pressure washing. It's not on us. We give them a breakdown of the xylene, present them with the data sheet on the xylene and how it's just a nuisance. It's not harmful, so we give that type of information to certain customers, hospitals, multi-tenant properties and stuff like that, just so that up front they know what could be the headache of the project. But for the most part, it's really, I don't go into a lot about my company because they've already researched my company, so, or I wouldn't be on site there.
Any questions? Any other comments on that? Moving right along, we'll go with Jason here, mobilization and logistics.
OSHA.
There's a second, God didn't ask me.
That's instruction, not to.
Yeah, well, we all do the
I
same.
still have the question, I can call it out. I know every project presents its own challenges and planning with orchestrating crews, material, equipment, etc. How do you schedule everything needed to begin a project?
Well, I think, there's a lot of challenges going into starting any job. Job site conditions, we kind of touched on it, having access to water, having access to the job, to the roof, being able to get your equipment in. I know my biggest thing, one of the first things I do whenever I go on a site, before I even bid it, I quote it, I look around, make sure that you have water. You can't pressure wash, obviously, without water. Things around you, car dealerships, we just did a 80,000 square foot warehouse building that only had access on one side full of semi trucks, all day long, 7 days a week. It's kind of hard to get a sprayer in with, 400 feet of hose and be able to do your job with all that equipment there. So that's going in, I try and make sure that we have everything, make sure that the owners, the people around are aware. If you're, like I said, if you're moving your spray rig because they need to get a semi truck out, all of a sudden, you're not making money. I think a lot of it you learn from having problems or having situations come up. Like Lisa said, we all figure out that, you want to turn off your AC units or, recirculate. Unfortunately, you find out after something happens. We took down a police department because we moved their satellite for their communication. Not a good situation.
Yeah, that was probably important.
Yeah, that one was bad.
Good to know though.
Yeah, so, that's something, and all we did was lift it to code upgrade and put it right back down. Well, we took down the dispatch for the police department. Thank God it was a Sunday in a small town.
And you probably didn't get a testimonial from that company, from them, did you?
No, actually, they loved me. They all thought it was funny. I don't know why.
No emergencies.
There was only two emergency phone calls.
Right.
But,
They were eating your brownies.
And remember, with this product,
They were eating your brownies.
they are.
just remember with this, guys, this is also, Brian said it yesterday, it's LTL. Do not, and I've known so many roofing companies that have gone in and thought the truck was showing up, and they've ripped off the roof, or they've gotten into it, or they've done something, the truck's not coming for another 2 days, and it's raining. Always give yourself a buffer. Don't guarantee people you're gonna be doing something on a certain day. It is on a truck. You have no control over it. Get it there, then start.
And trucking companies don't care about us.
They have none.
Not a care in the world. They don't care how important it is to you. They're gonna show up when they wanna show up.
Or I think in Houston, we had an issue where the guy didn't have a hazmat license. So he drove it to the outside of the city and just stopped and said, I can't go any further. You'd think they would have thought about that beforehand.
Like, what we did before we actually had a distributor was we'd bring it into our warehouse about 70% of the time. We just had better luck with it. We'd bring it in, load it on our crane or one of our dump trucks and take it to the job site regardless of if we were installing it in-house or had a sub. We just found that would be more successful. We made sure our equipment was on site to get everything to the roof if we put it on a dump truck. And everybody saw our warehouse yesterday, so we had the capability of actually housing the material. The LTLs, when you're working in a chemical plant, show up, you have no way to offload the material, and you can piss a chemical plant off really quick when you're blocking up their entrance to get in, and you've got hazardous material. We now keep a trailer that is our coding trailer, so to speak. It carries all of our equipment. So basically, when these guys are going to do a job, they're taking the trailer, they park it on site, it stays on site till the job is complete. their safety, everything they need is in that trailer. They go to the next spot. Our pressure washers, our Graco, our spreaders, rollers, everything. Basically, as we get stock in, it goes in there. And that's been very successful for us to be able to just go from job to job to job to job. Sometimes we could get in a quagmire of having 2 jobs going at the same time, and everybody wants to fight over the trailer, so we just say, you've got the smaller project, we'll review the stuff by there, we're taking it to the larger project. And that way you can also keep your stuff under lock and key, every single day, so.
Yeah, I think you'll find that the trailer, I know Stephen has one, I have one, I mean, that's what we do, everything stays in our trailer, you know, just so
Yeah.
you don't, if you're not, you know, oh shit, I forgot to grab this, or,
Right.
you know, I mean, cause it's gonna happen.
It's amazing on how we get so involved in our business or company or other people that we forget to plan. In our sales team and in our production team, we always say, you know, remember to plan for success. No planning is a short plan for failure. And if there is nothing that you can remember that we talk about as far as this mobilization logistics, one thing you really want to remember that will motivate you for strong planning is remember this. 1 minute spent in planning saves you 10 minutes in execution. If there's nothing else that you can remember on this mobilization discussion, is remember this. 1 minute in planning will save you 10 minutes in execution. And we have drilled that into our sales and our production team. And we missed the project. It was over a $2 million project, and they missed a pre-job schedule and walkthrough. And it has, I mean, we're okay as far as the job is concerned, but it has caused us a substantial amount of money because of certain things that were missed. So we do have what we call a planning phase. We have we basically have a war room, and in that war room, we get together, we bring the project file, all the communications, we do a project review, we do systems overview. We have a project that's about 8 years ago. They installed the wrong system on the roof. We still got the warranty in the end. Basically, we agreed that it was okay, but it was the wrong system was installed. It really came because it did not take the time to review the system that's getting installed. And basically what it was a Uraseal system. In our specs, it said that they're doing a fully reinforced in certain areas, and it didn't happen. Well, once you've got the silicone on, you can't put the urethane and fabric on top of silicone and be done.
Oh, come on now.
Use the Terminator. So yeah, it's spend some time planning. Go through the equipment list, go through the materials list, and that is some documentation that we also have. All of our field crews, they get a whole book. It's got the entire list in it. Now when they show up on the job, they know what is required. And then it's the pre-job. And as I said, we've missed several times where there was missed on the pre-job, and that is meeting with the client. And when you meet with the client, do a review of the project scope and the specifications, the obligations, and the schedule. Because there are certain obligations that the client has. I think you guys were talking about the obligations that the client has. We had a $90,000 insurance claim. We're not responsible for it because we had a pre-job with the client, and in our contract it specifies that they are responsible for protecting the interior. It is their sole responsibility. When they went to pressure wash the roof, it opened up a gap, and we had pouring down rain. We got onto some medical printing material. It was medical. $90,000 insurance claim. Basically came down to almost a lawsuit. But basically, because we had the pre-job, they signed off on it, they agreed to everything, we're okay. So, do your planning.
Any questions on that? Got a couple more here. Move on to the next one. Lisa, quality control and installation. Some contractors have in-house crews and some sub the work out. As we know, you just stated, you do both. On commercial projects, how do you prefer to schedule a crew, and what are some of the challenges that come along with managing that crew?
Well, the biggest challenge in scheduling anything is weather. Your trying to find the open windows. It seems like every December I get a couple metal roofs, and I'm like, why? It's our wettest time of the year, and it's our coldest. Got 2 right now that we're trying to finish and complete, and it's been a big headache. As far as the scheduling, I mean, I have 10 service trucks, so scheduling is a little bit crazy for me because I actually am hands-on with doing that still, just because I know the best need for the customer, and I've tried to pass that several times, and I find that my customers really do not like whenever I pass that, so I hold on to that. So for me, I know the crew that's gonna be best for whatever job, because we recently had 2 coding systems going at the same time. I knew which crew to put on which job. As far as using a sub, we always make sure our materials are on site. We have our porter let a roll-off dumpster or some sort of way to get the debris off the job. And equipment to get the product either on the roof. You don't need equipment, of course, if you're doing the spray. But recently we had a situation where we were spraying our job, and our breaker that was actually in the warehouse yesterday, the piston was messed up on it. We could not spray. We had no equipment. So the guys, the first day, did nothing but carry cans up on the roof. And I said, no, I'll get you a wall. So it's very important that there's constant communication and making sure that the crew has the need to be able to do the job in a timely manner. You don't want them coming in saying that they wasted a day of labor that could have been an install day when you have maybe just a few days of open window to do the project. So with that being said, it's more of just being really hands-on with them. I have superintendents a superintendent that goes by the job, or I check in with the job. We also use the CRM. I get photos every day. If I don't get photos every day, Mama Bear is really not happy, and Mama Bear goes in beast mode. And they know it because those photos showed me, if I wasn't out on that job, what was actually accomplished and what happened and what was the problem. But fortunately for me, with the sub I use and with my guys, they're trained enough to where I don't have to police them. So that is part of the beauty of how we run our company. So,
Any comments on that? Questions?
Quality control.
No.
Okay,
Steve?
no. And we talked about it on the roof yesterday. We're doing our spreader presentation, quality control there too. A lot of you guys are new to this, so you're going to be very involved. A lot of us, we have subs, we have crews that have the experience and knowledge of how to do these things, how to apply these products. And a lot of you guys are new to this. The whole point of this vast academy is education for not just the veterans of this, but people that are just looking to break into this market of roofing or in diversifying into coating. So understand that quality control is important. We're talking with a gentleman who felt like he was doing the quality control right, but at the end of the day was short. And so sometimes those things happen, and especially when you're doing things for the first time. Trust me, I've done it myself, and I've had to go back and redo things over and over and over again. So don't look at it as, oh my gosh, it's this defeat. We've all experienced that and then some. The reason why we're probably up here is because we've screwed up enough and screwed up many, many, many times and gone through those failures and gone through things like you see with lawsuits and, from things. There's a lot of experience here. We could literally go for a whole week with, like you said, war stories and things that to help you not fall into those pitfalls. But at the end of the day, the best teacher is experience. But the best teacher is also somebody else's experience. So that's why we're here, to help you guys.
you learn by your mistakes.
Exactly. You're going to learn from your own mistakes. We all know that it's life, right? But quality control, back to my point, my little rabbit hole there, making sure that you're checking your stuff consistently. Maybe you start out and you're doing good, and you're like, yeah, man, we're rolling, we got the right mill thickness, we're good. Roll on, guys, and you go get, lunch while guys are doing whatever, and you come back and, man, it looks good. And then you guys do your checks, and like, no, you checked it before you left. Got to be consistent, checking mill thicknesses consistently. Because Rick Napper, he's going to get it. He's going to go do his slit temperatures. He's going to do his micrometer. He's going to find out. He's going to, hey, this area over here, it's about 2,000 square feet. It's light. I mean, and Rick goes and does his stuff, and he takes his random samples. He finds a bad sample, guess what he's doing? He's taking samples from that point out to find out where it's happening. And if he, finds himself, hey, there's 2,000 square feet that's light, guess what you're doing? We're going back and fixing it. So quality control from the standpoint of, making sure that you guys are putting down the right amount of product. And I know that seems a little scary, like, what happens if we have a low spot somewhere? That's gonna happen. At the end of the day, it's an average, right? Now, if the average starts to get really off kilter, like, yeah, you had on this half of the roof, you're at 50 mils, and this half you're at 10, that's not gonna work. But if you're consistently within range, and you're gonna have some highs and lows, it's gonna happen when you're spreading and back rolling and even spraying, as much as that seems to be a controlled environment with what you have coming out of that tip. But you slowing down a half a pace, running up a panel, can add another 5 mils to that. And that's why consistently checking yourself and making sure. Pressure changes, weather changes, no matter, even if you're doing things like TPO, if you guys do TPO, when you have to check your wells and how well your robot, for instance, is doing in the morning in a colder temperature than when you get, another 30 degrees hotter in a warmer temperature. And that's part of quality control check that your crew should be doing, or your sub making sure his crew's doing. No different in this. Got to make sure that you're doing that. And I've just heard several different people going through that, and we've been through it, and I just want to make sure you know. Always check and check often.
You may ask the question, yeah, I can do quality control, but what if I'm not there? The employees don't care, or the stakeholders don't really care. How do I get them convinced to do the job right? As soon as I'm off the job, something's gone wrong, they don't really care, they just want to get off the roof. What we've worked on over the years is what we call the quality-minded culture. Have a culture in your company, within your employees, that what they want to produce is quality. Whether it takes a little extra time, just that they're consistent and that they're constantly working on saying, this is not a quality product. I'm not just going to get off of the roof. Boss isn't around, I'm going to skip on it. But basically create a quality culture, quality-minded culture. And what we do is we do a lot of training. We do hands-on training. We do quality installation training, not just installation training, but what is a quality product? What's really something that doesn't pass, so that they know this looks bad. Also, we do monthly training where we have that's more extensive, and then it's quality monitoring. We always say, trust but verify. I don't like showing up at the job and saying, I'm looking for mistakes. No, I'm just verifying that you guys are still on track. So really trust when you create a quality mindset, and the guys know that you trust them, that you're verifying it. They want to do what's right. And through that, we do tracking systems. We have surveillance, which is monitoring, and also documentation.
Just remember the one thing. Whoever is on your roof installing for you, whether it's a new roof, coatings, repairs, they are a reflection on you who sold the job. Not a reflection on American Weather Star or the manufacturer. They're a reflection on, for me, Lisa Irby. They're not gonna remember anybody in my company because they didn't meet anyone else in my company. They met me. So my quality has to be what I sold them. So investing in your employees, taking the time for proper training, they will make you look good at the end.
I think, Lisa, you said something that you have some bonus programs. We do the same. Bonus points, celebrations. It's amazing. The motivators, if there's a job that's been come in on time and it's high quality, bonus points, and then also, celebration for a job well done.
You want a happy employee, give them an unexpected paycheck.
Brian, are you taking notes? I'm just kidding, he's good too.
Hush, Lisa.
Awesome. Any questions on that?
You just had two on too.
What did you say?
You can't talk up there.
That's Lisa's employee. Any other questions? All right, we'll move along to Jason's favorite last question. But we'll go with Bobby on this. Oh, yes, safety and OSHA. I know it's coming. What is protocol for leading bulk construction when it comes to safety and OSHA?
Hope and pray they don't show up.
That too.
They're
job, I mean, we plan, you know, we look at what we're doing, we try to ensure that everything's done, we read the books, we have a safety manual that every sub has to sign, and that helps, that when OSHA shows up, and, you know, guys, the biggest thing everybody goes, well, nobody told me. Well, we have a manual. That manual was actually written by OSHA. There's several websites out there that'll put one together for you. And if they ever come back and say, nobody told me, well, we pulled a piece of paper out of it, you signed it, saying that you read the whole thing. And so usually that ticket goes to the sub instead of us. We've recently taken on some larger projects, so we actually had to in-house, or I say in-house, we hired a OSHA compliance officer that comes in twice a month. And by doing that, if OSHA shows up, we have a certified OSHA inspector trainer that can show logs and documents where, you know, she's trying to address the issue. They know you're working with this issue, and they're not as hard because, I mean, they're gonna find something. They don't just come out just to, because they drove by. Sometimes, I'll take that back, sometimes they do, but odds are, you stole a job from somebody in their mind, you were cheaper, you beat them out of it, and they called you in and they took a picture or something. It's usually what happens. You outbid somebody, they got mad, and they called them.
Typically, if OSHA stops, they already have you, so you're in trouble.
Yeah, they don't show their hat and their vest until they already know that
You're screwed.
they got a picture.
Yeah, they don't stop and say good job.
So we had a job in Arizona, it was a tile job, just to give you an example. I know it's not coding, but just for OSHA purposes. Just happened recently, we, with a very large client that's out of Phoenix. And these guys were up there and 13 guys on the roof, big apartment complex tile jobs. Everybody, all the safety's up there, everything's good, most everybody's tied off. Now, obviously when you're on a roof, you're unhooking for one reason or another, whether you're getting on the roof, off the roof, switching lanyards or something, if you're not on a retractable, whatever the case may be. But we didn't have, you know, everybody was on lanyards. There wasn't, you know, E protection, none of that stuff. So they came out, and it wasn't, luckily, I say luckily, it doesn't really matter. It was Arizona State OSHA. Evidently there is one that just federal OSHA, found that out. And they came out and they had pictures of guys, 2 guys of the 13 that weren't hooked. And the thing about it is it turns into a situation where training, right? Understanding when you can unhook, when you can unhook. And look, we all know that a lot of the safety things that OSHA puts out can also be more of a hazard than not having it at all, right? Let's be honest. If you're not like, that's why I like our guys using retractables. Even retractables have their issues, right? You know, if you got a lanyard, you got 50-foot lanyard up there because you need to get to the bottom, you're constantly going back up, you got all this string on the ground, you trip over it, that's a trip hazard. You know, so there's always pros and cons to it. These guys are unhooked at whatever point in time, they snapped a picture from across the road, sitting in an office building out a window. Boom, they came over, shut the job down, tried to find us, tried to find the other people. But the good thing was, because it's not like we were blatantly disregarding safety, we had everything in place. The guys had harnesses on, they just weren't hooked for one reason or another. We worked through with them. We don't have enough employees to have OSHA 300 logs, so that didn't matter, but we had to produce all these different things. And we've been compliance, we got them all the information, we worked through with them, and typically, as long as you're not combative with them and you're super defensive, because let's be honest, I've dealt with people in our industry, the minute you look at them sideways, they want to hit you and get all mad and all huffy and puffy. You do that with an OSHA guy, he'll just say, okay buddy, here you go. I don't have to deal with you. But if you're cool about it and you actually have the planning and the proper deal to get it done, and you just happen to have a happenstance and you comply and you're working with them, we get off with a warning. And we did. So, you know, just keep that in mind. Have somebody on retainer.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have your wall height, make sure you got some sort of towel for your employees. Safety monitor, stuff like that. We tried not to use Raptors when we were actually installing coatings because it's a little difficult. So we will actually use the towel davits and install them in the roof and leave them in the roof, just for if we ever have to make a future visit, we just charge the customer for them upfront, so.
Any questions on that? Everybody's just hungry. Everybody's hungry.
Any questions at all, any of the subjects that we covered, or any other subject that we haven't necessarily covered?
I don't know who.
It's
It's off.
There it is.